Let's go to Joel Scott-Halkes. How do you pronounce your name, Joel?
It's Joel Scott-Halkes. It should be spelled with a W, really. It's just Dutch.
Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think I'm going to sack the whole production team a little later and start afresh. Okay, Joel, tell me about your company, RePlanet, and what you do and what you hope to do and how you think it will benefit us all.
So I'm from campaigns group RePlanet. We're a Europe-wide charity that's just been launched earlier this year. And what we're campaigning for is for science-based solutions to the climate and nature emergency. So we're standing up for things that a lot of other green activists are often against. So we're supporting nuclear power as a way to get rid of carbon emissions as soon as possible and provide energy security. We're also defending technologies like genetic engineering of crops so that we can use less pesticides, less land, and again, have more food resilience. And we're also supporting technologies like precision fermentation, which is a really cool way that we can now make dairy, so chocolate, milk, ice cream, but without having to farm cows. So these are huge things that we could be doing that would improve lives, reduce poverty, and solve the climate crisis at the same time. So that's what we're standing up for.
Interesting, yeah. Well, okay, and that will be great, and I quite like the idea of all of those things, just worried where the poor old cows are going to end up. But what I'm concerned about is you using the phrase that we can sort out climate change, because you can't. Nobody can. We may be able to slow the advances of climate change, which is not good for human beings, down, but the climate, you know as well as me, surely, Joel, is always going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're just talking about timescales here, right? So the climate change is over a period of tens of thousands or of millions of years. You know, over the last 4 billion years, there's been 5 mass extinctions. They just happen to have been hundreds of millions of years apart. Problem is, human civilization's only been around for 10,000. So if we want to even double the length of human civilization, then we can't bank on those time periods because this one's happening in the next 50 years. This one's super turbocharged. This is high-speed train wreck collision with serious consequences.
But is it man-made? I mean, are we sure it's man-made?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to ask me if it's man-made. So the latest...
No, we're not. No, we're not sure it's man-made, Joel. That's a supposition. We are not sure how much of this is down to mankind. Some of it obviously will be. Some of it will be down to cows. Some of it will be down to farming. It'll be down to all kinds of things that whatever is on this planet does. But it doesn't mean that if we suddenly change it and suddenly cut back things, it will go in the direction we want it to go in. There are many other things that are happening. It's what happens out in space. It's what happens on at other planets, in the sun. You know better than me, I'm sure, the effect on the planet. And one side of science is saying at the moment, we don't know how fast towards rapid changes, and there have apparently been fairly rapid changes in climate, which means that different parts of this planet become inhabitable and other parts become uninhabitable, which is why in the past mankind, in the short amount of time we've been here, has had to move. All kinds of things are coming into play. And when these wallies glue themselves to things and say, well, you've got to stop doing this and stop doing that, and we will save billions of children, it just makes the majority of people fed up and not take any interest at all.
Yeah, well, just firstly, the first point, absolutely crucial that we just say here that at the last assessment of climate scientists around the world, done by Cornell University just last year, it found a resolute 99.9% of climate scientists are absolutely certain this is human.
But they have to, don't they, or they get cancelled. If you go against that, you're finished. Your career's over. Look,
in fact, actually, being a climate denier is much more of a money earner.
Yeah, but you're seeing as a screwball and you lose, you know, look at what happened to David Bellamy. I mean, but I like what you're saying, because...
But nobody is denying that climate... I wish you'd not done that to your hair, Ash.
I didn't do it.
Told that
I'm not the messenger. They send them, they do it downstairs.
That I will sack them for doing that. Well, they're going to be sacked. Because you look really... Sorry about this, Joel. You have to have some standards. You know, the planet's crashing into the sun. We really need to be...
No, but what, Joel, it's interesting, because these greenies, they will go, oh, yeah, but we're also anti-nuclear power and we're also genetic engineering, because they sort of see it as Frankenstein. They're all polarised, aren't they? So if you believe one thing, you'll believe these other things, and you're coming from a different angle, which is, you know, nuclear power can stop all this CO2 and genetic engineering isn't a bad thing.
No, absolutely not. I think actually that's one of the unfortunate things, actually, is that really if you're denying the climate science, you're on the same side as the anti-nukers. The scientific community is completely certain that nuclear power is safe. They're completely certain that genetic engineering is safe, but they're also certain that climate change is man-made, and they're also certain that vaccines are safe. So this is there's a bunch of lunatics out there who are anti-vaxxers, who think climate change is made up, who are anti-nuclear power, and those are not the people who are running the country that you're listening to.
But they sadly are the ones who are. Yeah, but they're the ones that the mainstream media seem to have on and seem to agree with a lot of the time. The nutters who decided they'd stop all the traffic on the M25 the other day. I mean, the amount of pollution that must have been coming out with all those cars stopped there, 9-10 miles of cars just with their engines on, most of them, because of the heat of the day. It's just ridiculous. People are not thinking.
Yeah, well, I fully support those people who are taking drastic action like that. It really is the bare minimum that we need to be doing right now. What we're talking about right now.
That makes you an idiot, Joel. Why? Hang on. Why would you want to support people who are doing that? Because they're thugs and vandals, and I was beginning to warn to you. But if you support those nutcases, nobody is going to listen to you or take you seriously.
They're probably anti-genetic engineering and anti-nuclear power stations, aren't they?
Yeah, I think many of them are, although actually a lot of the modern climate movement is realising the fundamental thing is we're talking about the potential collapse of society, of civilization. The stakes are so high here that we've got to put aside all of these differences. So if you are anti-nuclear,
join the army, Joel. You're right, join the army and make sure you can defend us against all the people who want to come and live here.
Well, I think very interesting.
Because if that's what's going to happen in the future, we're just going to have to deal with it.
Do it in China. Block the motorways in China and India, where the real, carbon dioxide is being pumped out. See what happens there.
This really is a matter of national security. So it's interesting to bring up the army right now. So last year, the MOD itself published a review on the strategic implications of climate change, and it came up with some pretty bloody horrific things that are coming down the line. More extreme weather, more extreme heat waves.
We'll be better off in this country, though, apparently, with global warming.
No, not at all. Spread of tropical diseases, dengue fever,
across the world, maybe. But
hang on.
And they've warned of civil unrest.
You are not. Yeah, but this is just
the MOD itself warned of civil unrest.
It doesn't matter who. It doesn't. Of course, there'll be civil unrest because there are people like you who think it's perfectly acceptable to piss around, sit in the middle of a motorway, and behave like a complete frigging pillock. And if you guys don't stop doing this, and you're all sort of slightly overeducated upper middle class people who are doing it, who think you know better than the rest of us. If you don't stop doing it, there will be civil unrest. You are not going to stop the climate changing. You are not going to put the climate back to whatever is your favorite climate time. I don't know, the 50s, 60s or whatever it is. It isn't going to work. We may be able to clean up the planet, and I'm a big supporter of cleaning up the oceans and everything else. But people who say, we're going to stop this and we're all going to be able to live happily ever after. Yeah. No, we're not.
And you have to do it with the ballot box. You have to do it democratically, not, like a fascist trying to force. That's not going to bring the people along, is it?
And it's absolutely crucial that all politicians get behind this, and they do.
Because people are going to fight back. People are going to fight back against people like you if you don't stop behaving in this stupid, ignorant, childish way. Because if you carry on breaking windows of buildings like ours, sitting on motorways, people are not going to sit around while the flipping police give you water to cool you down. They are going to get heavy because we are going to want them to. And then you have civil unrest. And if that's what you really want, fine. But all you really seem to want is to have your own way. That ain't going to happen.
Years ahead of what climate scientists warned would be the worst effects of climate change, just 2 days ago, we had homes in Britain burning down from what was described as hellfire.
Oh, for goodness sake, shut up. Don't patronise me like that.
You don't know that was from global warming, though. That could just hot weather.
That was from some silly sod throwing his fag end away or lighting a bonfire.
That's been happening for decades.
We had record-breaking temperatures. I'm absolutely aghast at you guys. You're being so reckless with the future of Britain. This is the future of our great nation. And for the first time since the Second World War, we've had, since the Second World War, the busiest days, the fire service ever seen.
The planet is getting warmer. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
On behalf of
we are getting closer to the sun, too.
I am ashamed that you can possibly say this. You're being reckless with the future of our great country.
Well, we're the one who believe in democracy of our great country. We're the ones saying, you're being, you're the one being anti-democratic.
you listen for a minute. What are you going to say to the people of those places where their houses burnt down a couple of days ago?
Well, it's not to do with global warming. That was a fire. We've always had fires in hot weather.
Dude, it's the biggest temperature we've ever had.
You really are.
It was 2 degrees Celsius.
You are absolutely showing the sort of ignorant self of these so-called green climate. I don't know what you want to call yourself, climate terrorists, because that's what you're aiming at.
With all due respect,
no, don't call me James.
Come on here with a narrative already.
No.
A narrative saying that Greens are going to be, sitting in the road.
I've had enough of you. No, I don't have to listen to you. I've had enough of you, to be quite honest. You're talking rubbish. You're promoting an idea that can never be achieved. And I've had enough. I've had totally enough.